Hello everybody, I'm Sarah and I'm a recorder player. Today we are going to be playing one of my compositions. It's a solo piece for Ganassi soprano recorder entitled After Me Comes the Flood, and it's for the advanced recorder player who wants something with some cool techniques and flashy notes. I actually wrote this piece for a competition. An ensemble in the Netherlands called Black Pencil held an open call for pieces inspired by the island of Schokland. Now stay with me here. Schokland was an area of the Netherlands that was an island until that whole entire region of the country was reclaimed from the sea. And this little 1 minute piece really is about climate change. We have the sea in the beginning, then we reclaim the land, all is quiet, but yep, the sea will come back again and take us all. Did not mean for that to get dark. Let's play. Why the Ganassi soprano recorder? Let me just compare. The Ganassi soprano differs from our regular Baroque soprano. You can see they look quite different, and the bore is much, much wider. This has a huge influence on the sound. Baroque soprano, Ganassi, so I chose this big sound because I know it carries. I knew the piece would be performed outside. Due to the smaller range, it's also a bit of a struggle to get those high notes out, and I wanted that. So let's start off with the opening. Why have I started the piece with this big glissando? Well, on a Ganassi, it's quite unreliable to hit that top C. So if we gliss up to it, we get a bit of drama and it will speak clearly. Same thing with the high C in bar 6. I've given you a little gliss just to help you out. Now let's look at these notes. I'm going to let you into a secret. I've written these particular notes because they fall very naturally under the fingers. I purposely use these strong open fingerings so that you can just and we get this really nice ASMR. I've given the metronome markers 220, but actually I'd like it to be played as fast as possible with everything still sounding very clean. When practicing fiendishly dense material for your fingers, I'm going to give you 3 tips. The first is practice it in small segments without your sheet music. Of course, you can keep checking back, but we're working on integrating those notes into your muscle memory and your audio memory and not relying on your visual memory. Still with me? The second thing you can do that's super helpful is changing the rhythms, dotting it. It's a simple trick, but by dotting these passages, you're making the same finger connections but controlling when they happen. And the third is don't forget to practice the connections to the next bar. In bar 10, we're starting to slow down and we have I've chosen these trills because on the Ganassi we get the same overtone each time. So with all of these gestures, we're slowing down, and I really try and think about the connections between them. You're not just playing them one by one because I, the composer, have demanded you do so, but you're finding a story. So I like to imagine that I'm throwing a ball up in the air, and when it lands, that's when you play the next one. This creates energy between the gestures. It's like an impulse. I think you can hear that in the connection between bar 10 and 11. As the performer, it's your prerogative to change how these gestures relate to one another. If you want to link them in a different way than I personally play them, that's fine. Okay, middle section from bar 14. We are now in a different era. We have raised the island. No, we have raised the ground around this island from the sea, and for now everything is calm. Even though it's slow, I find it helps if we keep the pulse. It's not so much about the notes, but the textures they create. So if you want to augment this with extra air sounds, you could say s into the recorder. Turn it slightly sideways to get a bit more of an airy sound. Great, I'd love to hear it. And the ending of all of these sounds is really important too. In Baroque music, we're trained to create a beautiful ending where we don't lose the sound, we don't lose the tuning. We're working very hard behind the scenes to make it sound beautiful and effortless. Here, I don't mind if we hear those cracks. I think it just adds to the overall texture. To go through the bars one by one, 14, you're trilling with finger number 1 and it's creating this overtone. And 15, we change to finger number 2. In bar 16, if you overblow, we get that octave. From 17, things get really interesting because I want you to turn your recorder to the side and blow here into the labium. The variety of texture, different sounds you want to create within those gestures, please go for it. And then at 19 and 20, I have written in my absolute favourite sound that you can make on the recorder. It's a very soft, trilled overtone. So you place your finger very gently at the top of the window here. I'm not doing anything with the tongue, I'm just blowing. And you have to find the exact right spot. If you press too hard, we just get air. If we press too little, we get a note. And I want you to find that sweet spot in between where the air and the note are interfering with one another. Hearing this played on the wide open flatlands of this strange reclaimed island from the sea is just magical. And then we recreate that same sound in the next bar, but with a trill on a C sharp and the flutter tongue. Here, how you move from gesture to gesture is up to you, but it's very important for the overall atmosphere of the piece. The breathing in and out that you do through your mouth does not have to end when you take the recorder out. You can keep blowing. That's the thing I love about contemporary music. These conventions that seem so obvious, like you stop blowing when you take the recorder out of your mouth, you don't necessarily have to. All right, and then we're going back into the third section. The C's are tumbling back and we're basically seeing an inversion of the opening. I mean, It's quite obvious. The opening is all falling down and the ending is all going up. Profound. Bar 27 feels really important to me. We're getting faster and faster with these quintuplets, sextuplets, but there I want you to be dabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-dum. I noticed that I'm using my cheeks quite a lot to give little pushes of air in the high register. The Ganassi doesn't really like going to those high notes, so we have to struggle a bit, but that's part of the piece. There are two important parts to that last accelerating gesture. The first is the articulation at the beginning. I've notated an accent and I do a sputato. That's a very strong tongue stroke with no air. Now don't forget, the tongue is a muscle, so it will take some time to build up the strength and power behind it if you're new to this. But it's a good way of starting a phrase very strong without making the notes themselves crack or go out of tune. And the other end of this gesture is always landing on the high B, which has a real tendency to crack on the Ganassi soprano. I have to really work to make it work. I find that if I add half a finger six, this stabilizes the note on my particular recorder. And again, I use my cheeks to kind of give a push of air. So it's a balance between making the fingers seem effortless, but the sound, you're showing the work. And what's that ending bar? I always surprise myself there, and you can do that to yourself too. Fun. So that was After Me Comes the Flood. It's 1 minute long, quite flashy and dense, but even though when you look at the page it looks daunting, everything is written so it just works on the recorder. It's really working with the instrument's strengths. As an aside, I almost felt like I was cheating when I wrote this piece. I know the performer, Jorge Isaac, and I know how he plays and what he likes. I also know the recorder and what sounds cool, but then I realised that's what you should be doing as a composer. If you want to play this piece too, I would be very happy. I've popped it onto my web shop, so if you want to get the music, it's over there. And if you play it, please share your performance with me. You can tag me on Instagram, you can send me a video. It would make me so happy. Huge thank you to Black Pencil Ensemble for holding this open call. So thank you for coming on this ride with me through this 1 minute piece. As always, you can subscribe to my channel by clicking on my face down here. Over here's my web shop where you can get the score if you'd like to play it yourself, and here's some more videos. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye!